This is the Introduction to Circuits for the DIY STEM kits, and we're going to be taking a look at what a circuit is, some vocabulary terms, how to wire a switch, and how to strip a wire. So the first thing we need to look at is what is a circuit? When you think about circuit, think about circle. Electricity has to start and stop in the same place, and there are no gaps along this circle or this path for the electricity to flow. So there are two types of circuits. There's a closed circuit and an open circuit. See if you can tell the difference between the two circuits. If we look closely at our closed circuit, we'll notice that there are no gaps or breaks along the entirety of the path. Therefore, my light bulb is lit, so we can see all of the wires are connected. If we look at the open circuit, you'll notice that I have a gap in my negative lead, which is preventing my bulb from coming on. Now, what would happen if we connected the positive and negative leads together? This is called a short circuit, and when you're working with youth especially, you want to remind them to be very careful to not cross their negative and positive leads, especially when they have a battery pack without a switch. If this happens, the batteries inside can become very hot to the touch. Next, you have LEDs in your kits, which stands for light emitting diode. There are two legs on each LED, one is positive and one is negative. The long leg is positive, and we usually call this the anode, and we associate with the color red, and the short leg is negative, we call this the cathode, and we associate with the color black. Ask your youth to notice the difference between the LEDs when they're held up. Now, electricity can only flow through conductive materials, and non-conductive materials are called insulators. Conductive materials are things like metal, wire, people, aluminum foil, fruits and vegetables. These are all conductive materials, which means electricity can flow through them. On the other end, we have non-conductive materials called insulators. These are things like rubber, paper, cotton or fabric. Now we have a wire close-up, so you can see that the inside of the wire is conductive and then you have the insulator around the outside. This prevents accidental short circuits. So let's talk about how we can remove some of that insulator. And we can see here we only have a little bit of our conductive wire exposed. So to strip this wire, we can use wire strippers. And what you'll notice on your wire strippers is that there are these weird looking teeth. They kind of form circles or holes. So you're going to want to line up, this is called the gauge of the wire. You're going to want to line up the hole with the wire to the right gauge. And when you squeeze and slide off the insulator, you'll have more of the exposed wire. This makes things a little bit easier to connect when you're working with small circuit components. Now, if you don't have wire strippers, you can use scissors. So for scissors, you're going to very carefully cut through the outer coating without cutting through the wire. It's really easy to accidentally trim your wire. So we're going to cut all the way around very carefully and then kind of put some pressure down and slide off that insulator piece. And then you have more exposed wire. And now for switches. So you can use either positive or negative when you're connecting to the switch, it doesn't matter. But the first thing you're going to do is connect one of the leads from the switch to the positive side of the motor. It doesn't matter which lead from the switch. Then you'll connect the positive lead from the battery pack to the other lead of the switch. You'll notice your switch has an on and an off. Now the negative lead from the battery pack is going to go to the negative lead of the motor. When I flip my switch to on now, my motor will come on and start spinning. And there you go. You can always connect the negative lead to the switch and then the negative lead to the motor. It really doesn't matter. You just want to make sure it's only positive or negative coming out of the switch.